Okay, we are now recording. Welcome everyone to the October 13th iteration of the MicroProfile live Hangout. Every meeting right now is the working group edition. So I do upfront want to point out, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, maybe sooner rather than later if Scott hasn't joined, is that next week the plan is for it to be our steering committee call, right? So that's the plan. We will shortly, I think, have the paperwork off to the Eclipse Foundation from a Red Hat perspective. So a heads up on that from for Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, got hit by some PTO from some folks.
Yeah, no worries. We know it's in progress.
Okay. All right. I was going to have a discussion here with the checklist, continuing that discussion, but I don't think Scott is on right now. I know, David, that you had a lot of thoughts about the checklist. Let me see if I can pull that up here real quick. And sorry, the title bar for Zoom is getting in the way of my tabs, so give me a second here.
John, you mean the checklist for
no,
how to run the future releases and specs and things, because you were in general, you weren't specific on what checklist you're talking about.
It should be shared right now, the spec review checklist. So I think what we decided last week is that we were going to use Nexus staging to stage bits, but we didn't necessarily have, a lot of detail, I think, worked out around which checkboxes we were going to use and which ones we were not. Right, so you can see here that we've got quite a few checkboxes. I don't know if David, if you want to kind of discuss where you think we are with your review checklist, since you had a lot of thoughts about it last week. If not, then I can just kind of wing it going through this list.
Well, I think we probably need a fresh checklist. If we're going to go around the concept of the materials have to be in the staging repo, and then we're just simply going to have an issue, not a PR, but an issue that we're voting on, then we probably need we probably need a slightly simplified. I mean, these checks probably still apply. Some of them, for example, the PDF has to be in the form of blah, and the HTML has to be in the form of blah, but we don't have any index MD files at all.
Right.
So anything that says the word index MD is instantly a delete. So, we're also not publishing our Java doc anywhere, like in HTML format online. And so, that is also something to be considered. We can certainly do that, but we're just not set up to do it right now.
Right. Now, and I thought after last week's discussion, I mean, we brought up a lot of these same points. And I thought that Scott was going to go back to try to rework this a little bit to make it more from a MicroProfile perspective. But maybe he just didn't have the time to do it.
Right. All right.
Did people have thoughts on the email that I wrote? Did it sound like using those staging repos, including that number that's in the staging repo, to just sort of keep ourselves coordinated? Did that sound like something people liked?
Well, I read the email. I think that makes sense. I think it make best to use the sonotype. And also, I think for this checklist, the other thing is TCK and the spec API all in a single repo. So we need to factor that in as well. So I think this can be further, streamlined. So a lot simpler.
Right. Where it says what's the link to the TCK and what's the link to the spec, it's one link.
Yeah.
Should have them all in there.
So is this going to, I'm thinking about this from a schedule perspective. Does this impact the schedule at all? Does it take us any extra time in our minds to align with the repo approach versus just do it the way we do it?
Yeah, we're already doing it with the repo approach. We're just not publishing the staging repo for input before we release it.
That's true.
You know, so we would add a step there in the middle. Right now, we do publish to a staging repo. There is a numbered repo. Someone does have the ability to go into the OSS sonatype.org or com, I don't know, wherever. The Nexus install, see the repo with the number, click on it, say close, but then they very shortly after say release. And so what we would do is have people go do the same process they're doing now. They would click close to close that repo, and then they would put that in the issue and give everyone a chance to look at it. And that's what we would be voting on. And we would need any other information that's not in the repo to be in the issue.
Okay, so basically they close the repo, make it public. Everyone just goes off to the repo to look at it. So,
right, we would put all that information in the issue. We would aggregate that information in the issue. The issue would be the central thing that we're looking at. We would need something like a compatible. We would need something like a certification request. And the public test results. Public test results are a requirement of the license.
So I added that as a discussion item for our first steering committee meeting if we happen to get there. So next week, as an FYI. So.
For the certification, do we need to host a web page? I think we need to list the compatible implementations, right?
So that would probably be on microprofile.io.
Yeah.
We have the working group subset of pages that we're planning on creating, and
we don't necessarily have to, but we can.
Well, that's the thing. It's not a critical path item, but we definitely want to do it.
Yeah. So let me inject in here. The tickets is the ticket for that day has the list of items.
You muted yourself. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry. So the ticket of that task is already in the marketing kit. I can share it in the agenda. However, I am with John on that side. We can do this later after we have the mass items in the pages. I don't see it as a requirement at the moment. And I wonder if we are correct in this idea. That is not a requirement, we can have it later because it will take time.
What is the it that we are describing?
Compatible products page.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we want to make sure that everything else is tackled and that we give time to our new members to be compatible. Do you see what I mean? We want to make sure that we don't highlight the ones that are already compatible, that we give enough time for everyone to catch up.
Well, we also have 4 years of specifications to be compatible with, so that's kind of a little bit of a complication to it.
Yeah, so that will be decided later. I will add into this section the tickets for a wish item for later, but not now.
Right. For Jakarta EE, when you release a spec, you need to compatible implementation together with the spec release. I assume like in MicroProfile, when we release 4.0, we also need to have associated compatible implementation.
Well, that's another item on the agenda here is what do we do at the platform spec? But your comment about the individual components, yeah, I think that's separate. So, you know, if we've got config and I don't know, let's just say Open Liberty is your compatible implementation, then that's, you know, there has to be a released version. It could be a milestone or whatever, but it has to be a released version of Open Liberty that supports config 4.0 or whatever the number is that we're up to.
Right.
Something else to be thinking about here is the need for a trademark license agreement and a get listed process as much as it's required here for MicroProfile.
Don't understand, Paul. Can you explain further?
Yeah, I can. So the where we end up here with a compatibility program and a logo, in Jakarta, it is supported with a trademark license agreement, a process called the Trademark Usage Guidelines, and a handbook which specifically describes graphically how that compatibility logo can be used, and a compatibility logo. So,
right.
and then there's the get listed process that you know, hangs off the compatibility page. So which is separate from being compatible with individual specifications. So
Or even
what needs to be worked out here in the context of MicroProfile, and I understand you want to have a custom approach to your compatibility, is to working through all those details and kind of mapping it on to you know, a structure that makes sense and works for everybody.
Yeah, and thanks, Paul. So now you have summarized what we will have to do. And the complicated side of this is that we, the MicroProfile project, doesn't want to charge users to they can say, I am compatible with MicroProfile without having to pay for being compatible. So we will have to
say that for Jakarta as well. You just don't get listed.
Exactly. So we will work on
the page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't use the compatible logo.
Right. And the threshold for commercial entities to use the logo for Jakarta is that they join the working group.
Correct. And there is no way around that, correct? Or can we? Like,
if it's an open source implementation, then there's some ways in that David's aware of, but
yes.
But for a commercial entity, the requirement is to join the working group.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way Jakarta did it.
My understanding is any implementation, commercial or not, can claim compatibility.
Yes. Let's call it small c compatible, but they can't use the logo.
Right. If you want to use the logo, then you need to be part of the work.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. Right.
And this is
so what we had discussed, just so we can focus, is that we had discussed making a new logo for compatibility, and then all of this would be tied to that logo. The main MicroProfile logo would not be tied to compatibility. People would just be able to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my point is we need to work through all of that in a way that is consistent with the objectives of MicroProfile. It'll
take a little time.
Yeah.
It will take time. So this is why we need to table this for later. Can we move into the next item? Closing this one.
This is not required for us to release 4.0, but it does limit our marketing of compatible implementations, right?
Yeah. So what people can say are things that are factually true. They've run the TCK and passed it, and they're compatible with the specifications.
So the language that we actually used is to differentiate, well, at least in Jakarta world, so I will give you that. So we are talking about compatible products versus products that are certified. So certification means that any product can pass the certification test and have the results presented, but only compatible products can use compatibility logo. So that is how we are differentiating, just so you know, at this point.
Yeah, I do recall some specific warnings from Mike Milinkovic about the word certified.
Right.
So we may want to be careful to not pull that into our ecosystem. But yeah, in order to use the compatible logo, you absolutely have to be in the working group and be passing. So we don't have a compatibility logo. Yeah, we don't have a compatibility logo yet. So, you know, there's not much to put a trademark agreement around, but we definitely need to put all these things in place.
Okay, this is one of those times where I kind of warned I was going to unfortunately have to kind of butt in and interrupt because I want to keep us on schedule. What we do know is that it's not required for 4.0 to release, and we do have to address it. Okay, so I'm trying to keep us on 4.0 to release. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm going back to the checklist. Is there anything else that we kind of need to cover for the checklist? Is there like a spec maybe that wants to forge ahead and just test this whole thing out? Right? Go through the checklist, what works, what doesn't work, and kind of report back with things that we need to do, gaps that we've got.
Well, the obvious candidate will be config because it's required for other specs.
Okay.
Do we want to agree on what repo we're going to put the issues in? Like, you know, those are the decisions we had to make on the Jakarta side of the fence are what repo are we going to file? Are we going to put the, you know, should we release the specification PRs? We decided on we invented the specifications repo for that purpose. Do we want to use an existing repo or do we want to invent a repo for this? Then there's the question of where do the certification requests go? Do they go into the individual projects or do they also go into this single repo? Then the third thing is where do TCK challenges and things like that go? That one's a little more obvious. They should probably go to the repos of the individual specifications, but they could really also go into one central spot. So those are the three things that we need to figure out from a workflow perspective, where we're going to put these. So I am Italian today.
I was going to say that, Davide. I love it.
Io sono Davide.
All right. Sorry. So where do issues go?
Where do final specification issues go, right? Where do certification requests go, and where do challenges go?
So
Sorry.
the other
Where do?
Maybe you want to make a list.
Yes,
so
I do. Sorry.
Things,
before you continue, Emily, I apologize. I want to make sure I capture these three things.
Final spec.
Yep.
Certification requests.
Okay. Certification request.
And then TCK challenges.
All right, there we go. That's the one I was missing. And TCK.
John, we already know who is going to likely volunteer to be the chair for the minutes and this kind of things. I'm just saying here. You have earned it.
I was gonna voluntold John anyway.
Seriously.
I'm trying to be nice about interrupting. So like I said, I apologize again for having to do that, but it's kind of necessary, I think, for us to get some AIs done. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's table this one for now. The spec checklist. and we're going to have to continue this conversation online. And I don't think we've collectively done a very good job at moving the conversation forward during the middle of the week, in between these meetings. Let's see if we can make, a hero's effort to do that, myself included, by the way. So, so let's kind of force this discussion forward offline, because there's two other things I want to talk about. Actually, there's more than that. We've already gone over. Okay, I wanted to talk about the schedule a little bit. So I've got a draft schedule out that's probably way too aggressive. So we've got the working group creation. We have the steering committee meeting this time next week, right? So we got to approve the charter, approve the microprofile specification process. So I think, Paul, you said that even though in the charter we say EFSP, if we vote on the MPSP, that because it's a derivative, we should be okay. And we can go back and update the charter later.
You are okay, yes.
All right, thank you. Then we have a ballot initiation to convert the microprofile to a spec project. And then we got to have a ballot initiation potentially for a committer member. So around the committer member, this is another discussion that we have to have offline, but somehow we have to decide how we want to, vote in, do we want to vote, sorry. People are going to have to put their hat in the ring, right, to become a committer member, and then we have to discuss. If only one person puts their hat in the ring and everyone just says, yeah, go for it, then, that's up to the community. Right.
So you can self-nominate or somebody could nominate.
Right. So let's do this. Yeah, let's do this during the week in the Google group. So let's see here, and then anything formal will happen in the MicroProfile working group. Alias, yes, David.
John.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin.
Yeah. So one thing that I pointed out in the chat here, I mean, before we can actually have this initial working group meeting and expect to vote on anything, we need to identify everybody that is going to be, part of the working group. So I put a pointer out to that spreadsheet that Sharon is gathering the names. So we need Red Hat in there, of course, and we need the reps from each of the other companies to be specified.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But as Kevin, I saw IBM used their working group email to send that, and we need to follow the name, the subject title of your email, and every single partner needs to send their people, their names, to that mailing list. And I also added this to the budget, like the nominates. So we just need to formally send it to the working group at the Eclipse mailing list. Kevin and IBM provided an excellent example.
Yeah, I was going to do that as well. I guess I can edit this. So this is going to be
yeah, you should put a Red Hat entry in there.
Yes.
Are we going to be doing the? Will we allow more than one alternate?
Yes, we already talked about this.
The meetings are wide open, so anybody can come, but we still need to identify a specific rep and alternate for doing any official votes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
just more than one.
That was my question. So, in our situation, Amelia would like to be alternate, but in practice, we're both on vacation together, and so it's not much of an alternate, and it doesn't help for specification votings. So I'd really like to have somebody who's technical be another alternate for us, if we can possibly do that.
We already chatted about this 2 months ago, and I asked.
I would prefer to bring it up now, because this is the moment where we're actually having to do alternates. So what are our thoughts on that?
So in the specific case that you brought up, why wouldn't you just have somebody else listed as the alternate that, you know, if it's not Amelia, I mean, she is still going to be attending and participating, but you just need someone to be available for a vote in case both you and Amelia are gone, right?
Yeah, but the problem is that we talked 2 months ago, and there are no limits on alternates. It can be a third one that will be okay. I am not okay not to be an alternate. David named MicroProfile. He must be.
Hold on.
Wait.
Listen to this. I am going to be serious on this. Okay?
You get back it up.
Get up.
Back it up. No, I don't like the claiming there that I named MicroProfile. Yes, I did register the domain and suggest the name, but we decided on it together and we built everything together. I don't like any phrasing that implies one of us individually created this thing. We did it all together. So
co-founders.
Continue forward from the team perspective.
We, David and I will say I would like to have, for the project, to have 3 alternatives. Should the corporate member decide that is available. Clearly, we need to make sure that when we meet and the calls happen, likely 1, maybe 2 are talking. It's not that the calls will be able to hold the 3 people talking just for 1 company, but we need some flexibility so that more individuals are included and are able to execute. Because there are vacations, there are PTOs, even if we meet 4 times a year, we wanna make sure that at least 3 are around it. The same is going to be for the chair, the volunteer chair. I would like a co-chair to be there with John. I'm voting you there, right? To make sure that you can take vacations and you don't have to ever worry about missing the call because there is no one else to do the chair work. We should be prepared for this. Martin, go ahead. John is saying something in the chat. I got distracted. So what do we think about this?
Is there anything?
I have one comment to the alternate. I mean, it's have as many as you want, but I think to avoid confusion, you need to order them somehow so that there are no question who is voting this time.
Yes.
I agree.
I don't know. I think we're complicating things. I guess I just don't understand why a single rep and a single alternate is not sufficient. I mean, ordering the list of alternates that, I mean, it just seems like we're complicating this, and all of our meetings are going to be open. We all look for participation from everybody. So I guess I just don't understand that.
I think where it comes useful is that we really just have one committee for everything. And, you know, in matters of budget and marketing, Amelia would probably be the alternate primarily. In matters of technical specification votings, we would probably choose somebody else like Cesar or Jean-Louis or something like that.
Or John.
To be you know, so depending on what's getting discussed, it would probably be a different person who is really acting as the alternate. But I agree that that Ivar's comment that there should be a strict order. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, so to that end, I had mentioned this to John earlier. I was surprised that very early on in the process, we got rid of the marketing committee, because I think that's something that maybe has to be introduced after we get established here, because it does seem to, I'll just say, attract a different clientele, a different mentality, a different perspective. And I mean, me personally, I'm not as interested in the marketing aspect. And so having a separate marketing committee, I think that would be worthwhile. And then we can, you know, then you can define a rep and alternate for marketing. Not that we have to do this right now, but that's something I was surprised that we had gotten rid of that out of our charter.
Actually, Kevin, this is a great follow-up with you. I believe that branding, the branding side, what it does is to communicate the project to the world. In a sense, the technical side and the communicative side are one and the same. This is one of the reasons we push to have the entire 3 committees into one, because it makes no difference to have 3 different committees or 2 different committees when if we create something amazing and we are not simplifying the message, we are creating nothing because we are not able to communicate. It seems to me that within the one committee, we have the strength to bring as many diversity and to application on how we communicate. Simplifying the message is the most important thing. It is not outside of the steering committee. It must be inside. And to this, I want to hear from the other members. We have the Atlanta JAG, we have the Chicago JAG. How do you feel about this? Because you're not going to you're not going to claim compatibility, but you definitely want to communicate with your communities that yes, you can help. How can you help? And
okay, so I apologize, Amelia. I'm going to cap this at 4 minutes.
Yeah,
Again, we got some other important things.
Topics.
Yeah, no more than 4 minutes. So if someone, from one of the other members or, user groups want to pipe in, feel free. Thanks. Now we'll be, sorry, I will be enforcing the time here. So 4 more minutes.
Tatiana, Josh, Vince.
I think other people probably don't have too much experience with these committees, and so therefore there's not a lot they can say, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's much I can offer in terms of comments right now.
Right.
Yeah, seems like
that's one
from my side as well. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's one of my things is that it's always been a MicroProfile tenet to not over-engineer things until we have a problem. And in that spirit, my preference at least would be to continue with just one committee to see if we can just get the job done like that.
Correct.
And not introduce more committees until it becomes a problem.
Okay, I agree. We can wait. My concern is we have trouble keeping all of our agendas into a single hour. So I don't know how we're going to throw marketing in here and also give it the due service that it needs.
I think we're going to do that by becoming better communicators asynchronously speaking. We don't have to wait for the call to get the job done. The call is just an update in whatever I'm black.
We do have a separate marketing meeting every other week.
Yes, and that is awesome.
And maybe every week, but we don't get the strongest attendance, right? And I think one way to drive attendance is if it was its own separate committee and we can't make decisions unless we have quorum, would, I think, maybe drive up more participation there. And to be fair, now that we're becoming a working group, I think there'll be more interest in it. But that's just an idea. 2 minutes to go.
Tatiana, you were cut. Can you comment on this? You were saying something, but we did not hear you.
I heard.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I was saying that there is not so much to comment here, but I agree that we have a separate meeting for marketing. I don't think that we need to push everything in one discussion because this will be like overloaded. And I agree with John that the attendance is not that big, and maybe some more practical steps that we are going to have ahead that will make it like more active in some way. I think that one main representative from the entity is more or less okay, and for sure people need some alternatives to substitute during the vacations and so on and so forth, but more or less this will be like one person one entity, one company who is voting. So the vote mostly this is like the same vote. Even if you have alternative, you have like some common decision internally. So this is not really, I don't see the problem here to have like 1, 2, or 3 alternatives, but having just one official representatives who is voting and doing like the main job.
I will add the data point that if we do break out and have like, say, 3 committees and so on and so forth, it will start to become a lot of overhead for specifically our JUG members who just don't have that much time to be attending all these meetings and keeping up with all these decisions. And for them, it is very nice for at least there to be a minimal number of these types of things, and for everything else to be sort of just in, community doing work.
Correct. Into that form, increasing the level of that communication is a problem, and we shouldn't add it onto different committees. One of the main reasons we pushed 4 months ago onto having one committee was so that the barrier to enter, to agree to be a part of a formal member of MicroProfile, it is that you have 4 hours a year, plus the involvement on joining the community calls, where in the forum that shows you that you know what is happening, that you are a true steward, that you know exactly the panorama of the project, and you can eloquently vote on something, being informed.
Okay.
Let's finish it on that, and let's move forward. And John, thank you so much for keeping the minutes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I don't know if we've actually come to a conclusion here, right?
I think from my perspective, we need a primary.
Agreed.
We can decide about how many alternates, but right now I need the primary.
Okay.
Agreed.
So we can determine we've got quorum.
Let's add David to that. We have Kevin, I imagine. What is IBM? What is Red Hat in this? John, what's happening?
So I just sent an email. I literally just hit send as you were saying that. I was typing up the email saying that myself is primary, Roberto is second, is alternate, and paperwork I mentioned is in progress, so it should be there.
Okay, great. Okay, we will send that information, but let's add David. I don't know if Sharon is here, but Paul, you can add David as a representative.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Thank you so much.
If I've got access.
Sharon, I see Sharon in there.
All right, so I literally just sent that, so it's on its way. I'm going to, so we didn't even really talk about the schedule, and I'll be honest, I don't think necessarily that I want to yet, because I do think maybe the priority next is going to be the schedule for, the topics for next week. I've already brought them up very briefly, and God, this darn Zoom toolbar keeps getting in my way. Sorry, as I go find the right tab. That's the wrong one. Here we go. Is this it? Here we go. So next week we are planning the first steering committee meeting, right? Where this is where we vote on some big stuff, and we need everyone to be there. I really want people to be prepared such that we are really just voting, not having a lot of discussion like we tend to do on this call. We can have discussions, in general in the steering committee calls, but I think we've got enough background and we've done enough upfront discussion where I'm hoping that we can basically say, okay, charter approval, here's the charter, let's vote, right? Do that as quickly as possible to make sure we can get through it. And then after we get through some of these action items that are really required, then we can go into having any kind of discussions that need to be had. So for those that are being, they're going to be, primaries on this call, please be ready. And I will go in here and I'll add in these names now that I saw the spreadsheet. So I'll update that.
John, I have a question about this. Have you created a new document? And where is it housed?
A new document for what?
For the minutes.
I think what I'm going to do, I have to look into that. It's going to be either under the Eclipse folder, and I just want to make sure that if I, can I share out to everybody the Eclipse folder? I think right now, the way I want to do this is we tend to have an awful lot of cooks in the kitchen during the live Hangout. And at least for the first call, and we'll see how this goes, I can own the minute taking. Anybody can comment on the minutes. Anyone can view the minutes, but it'll probably just be, me and somebody else. I don't know if it's, you know, Edwin and, you know, I don't know if it's the release leads or whatever.
Yeah, we need
Kevin,
a chair, a co-chair.
Yeah, be able to ep the minutes. Again, it's just because this is a much more formalized call than our traditional live hangouts.
Plus one. Another question that I have for this is, at the moment we use the Zoom, and we will continue to use the Zoom for the rest of 2020, with likely this being the only or one of two calls for the steering, depending on how MP40 goes. But my suggestion is that in that call for next Monday, it should be already added today after this call to the calendar. We add the name MPW working, you know, the 4 letters, a sitting committee, and then add the minutes or whatever we have, the agenda, and provide access, voice and Zoom access to everyone automatically that is listed as a primary and alternate. Then we send the invites, which I already wrote in the comments on last call, that we send the invite to everyone in the forum that is plus 1,200. Then we send the invite to the MicroProfile committer mailing list, and then we call it event. This will be publicized via MicroProfile social media, and we will protect the call itself. You see, it will be a public call, Zoom call, but usually the people within the access to talk and speak whatever will have automatic access. Everyone else will be given access as the calls goes through, depending on the comments during the call, so that we can control the 1 hour and keep it organized. Otherwise, the 1 hour will be impossible to own. What do we think about this? This, I have said it twice now.
Well, I'm going to say send email to MP. I think these are good ideas. To the MP Google group, send email to committer list.
Yeah, it's a dev committer list, whatever name. Yeah.
So the question that I was going to have is, you know, normally we have this thing where everyone writes their name in attendance.
Yes.
And I kind of like that. I kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that. And could we still do? I mean, I haven't noticed people helping filling out the meeting minutes at all, unless you, John, say, hey, could you write that down? You do that once in a while, and people go, okay, fine, I'll contribute. But for the most part, people are not in there fighting to be editing the minutes.
During the meeting, that's true. Before the meeting, people go in and add agenda items.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Pretty consistently. Now, what I could do, I mean, I'm open to this idea. What I could do is put a note at the top saying, you know, don't, you know, a disclaimer, right? Saying kind of what we're talking about here. So,
don't
I mean,
items.
Well, yeah, don't modify, only
like
add your
that.
name as a contributor.
I like that.
I'm okay
John.
with that.
I like that, John, because if we lose giving the committers that show up and the contributors that show up, they cannot even write their names, even though the call is recorded. What are we doing? That is a -1 to the project itself. You launch
It's not terrible. It's not the end of the world. It just
it is the end of the world. It shows that we are the selective few. What the hell is that?
All right.
All right. We need to catch up.
Let's move forward. Yep. Let's move forward. I think we've kind of agreed on this. We'll try it out for the first call. Let's see how it goes. And if it becomes a problem, then we can, you know, change things later. I'm okay with that.
Let's protect it, everyone.
Okay. So let's see here. Make doc editable by everyone with a disclaimer at top. Okay. The other, all right, so in terms of the agenda, I think that's really it for the agenda next week. Sorry, wrong document. Here we go. Charter approval, MPSP approval, right? So this is with the modified duration. If everyone's voted, right, it's cut short with a minimum of 7 days, right? A ballot initiation to convert MicroProfile to a specification project. So Paul, what does that mean? Except we're starting a vote, a week-long vote to all agree to create or to convert MicroProfile to a specification project. Do we just go off and and say that and do a +1 in the working group, MicroProfile working group email thread, or is there anything else that we need to do?
Yeah, I want to talk to Wayne before I respond.
Okay.
So I can do that electronically. For the charter, how about linking the charter to that?
I meant to do that. Yes, you're right. Sorry, I'll do that. To link to charter in meeting agenda.
We have 9 minutes. Can we go back to the agenda and see? I think we missed one item.
Not yet. I don't think we're going to do a ballot initiation on a committer member unless we see progress here in the Google group during the week, right? But we could turn this, if we want to, into a discussion, right? After we get the formalities out of the way, we can turn this into a discussion. And the other thing that came out of last week,
we are getting we are getting paperwork for individual committers.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask what the status of that was.
That is my question.
You guys want to give a quick status?
Yeah, I don't have the I don't have that in front of me, but I know there's paperwork that's come in. If I say something, I'm gonna not get it right. I wasn't, but
if you say something that isn't right, we're gonna crucify
you. Paul, can you?
Yeah, no, it's more out of respect for all the committers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Can you please send the status to the forum? I started a thread, and you don't have to use that thread because it's very long. Just send the status on. There are 8, actually 9, because now Edwin is a formal committer of the project itself, so he has to sign.
Yeah, we'll get something out there.
Edwin, you are part of this agenda.
Yes.
Welcome formally to MicroProfile working group. Your work for the last few years have been amazing.
Well, welcome to us pushing a lot more responsibility on you.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm interrupting here. Sharon, I think, just joined. I don't know if she has anything she wanted to bring up or if she's a curious observer.
I'm just late to the party.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure.
We
had asked a question on what the status was of the individual contributors, that maybe you have some insight there.
So we have one agreement received back, and we've received another email communication today asking how to return one. So I believe that's 2 out of 8. So that's pretty good.
Great.
That's amazing.
Okay, that's some progress.
I have an update on that. I contacted the historical committers of MicroProfile, the ones that have changed jobs and were not able to return because of the limitations before we had the Eclipse consent, employer consent agreement. But that document exists since February. So I have contacted 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I don't remember, those individuals, and they are seeing if they will be able to return, because the 2-page consent is pretty easy to own. And once you are a committer, even if you go to the historical area, you can return. So I'm just updating here. That will be, we have 9. And then if the 2 return, I'm not saying they are looking into it, that would be 11 independent committers for the
All right, yeah. All right, that'll be awesome. Let's see. Let's keep tracking that throughout the week. Sorry, trying to keep us on track. The other major one, Kevin, I think we're gonna have to punt on the dry run. Again, another topic for the Google groups, and a reiteration for everyone to kind of participate throughout the week on these discussions, or we're just gonna keep pushing out the release date. Okay,
yeah,
so
just to clear, I mean, some of that dry run discussion kind of goes back to the initial item on the checklist too, because we got to figure out how are we actually going to do this release. So I think as we continue to discuss that checklist, I think some of that will help us figure out the dry run process as well.
Yeah, this right here is going to help with if config. So if Emily, again, let's take this offline. Emily and Roberto and whoever else is involved with config, let's just try it out, right? Let's try and do head towards a final release. You know, let's apply the checklist to whatever, you know, release candidate you're on, and let's try it out. Okay. So one of the concerns that we kind of have here is, or gaps, not a concern, gaps that we have is for having a MP4 platform spec. That requires us to have an MPTCK, and it requires us to have a compatible implementation. So from a from a TCK perspective, we could probably just point off to the existing TCKs of all the individual component specs, right? And say, this is the platform spec. We've kind of discussed that. What we haven't really discussed is around a compatible implementation, right? And, you know, at least for 4.0, if it's going to if having a compatible implementation is going to push us too far out, what we can do is say, well, MP 4.0 is kind of a marketing release, and we've released all the individual specs that make up 4.0, and just, you know, handle it that way. Or it would have, if someone thinks they have a compatible implementation, as we define it today, ready to kind of, you know, step into that role, you know, I guess, you know, step forward, or we can have a conversation here about which way people think here.
I think we could have two categories. One is kind of the whole MT4O, like including the Jakarta E one. The other one is kind of MicroProfile spec one. And if like there's a compatible, there's some candidates, we can list them both.
Well, it's not, in order, so part of this process is that when we submit for ballot a particular specification, so let's say we do the MP40 platform specification. When we submit that for ballot, we have to have a compatible implementation available. That's what's defined as part of the specification process. So it's not a matter of how many compatible implementations we might have down the road. It's one has to be available when we submit this for ballot.
Yeah.
Let me add some context. So, not trying to pull things to move to our side, but for us to know our current status. So, for instance, the small right projects, as you know, those are the implementations that we build on Red Hat. At the moment, all of those small right projects already implement all the features and passing the current TCKs. There are still on releases, but we're basically building on snapshots. We're passing all the TCKs for all the specs on MicroProfile 4.0. And right now we are working on pushing those to Quarkus. We're already passing a couple of them over Quarkus, and I'm guessing that we're gonna finish that work in the next couple of weeks, if that helps.
I think for small right is kind of is a good candidate for like pass the individual specs, like a config and fault tolerance per se. For the platform one, basically you need a kind of runtime to get all of them, but small right is more like libraries and etc. So I think it's like such as Quarkus, Open Liberty, Tommy, Payara, and etc. I think that's more suitable for the platform, like certification and etc. That's similarly for like Weld to certify to pass the CDI spec, but you need some other runtime like Liberty, Wildfly to pass the whole Jakarta E or Java EE releases.
Now, that's not how we define it today, right? Which is why I kind of wanted to be very specific. And I'm not trying, again, I write Red Hat here. I'm not trying to advocate for making Quarkus the compatible implementation going forward. In fact, I'm not sure that's something that we necessarily want to commit to. But what I do want to do is release MicroProfile 4. So if we feel that we need to have a platform spec, I think from what Roberto's saying, we could fill that role at least for MicroProfile 4. Going forward, it could be any implementation, right? So if not, then MicroProfile 4 is most likely going to be a marketing release, and everyone will basically claim compatibility with the individual specs.
My preference, hold on, let me inject here, John. My preference is not to highlight a project itself, but the entire 8 applications. It is a problem. I prefer for it to be a marketing release and not focus on pushing an agenda for anything. It's not a situation. I thought we would have it as a marketing release and move forward to allow for everyone else to catch up. I see it as a problem to focus. Even if we try to help, it's not going to be seen like this for newcomers. So can we go back and just say where we are as a marketing? I didn't know that we were changing the plan. And it worries.
We never defined the plan.
Changing. Yeah, exactly. This is still a discussion.
It was a gap.
Okay,
so here's the thing. This means we can have, technically, we can have no MicroProfile 4 compatible implementations because we don't have a MicroProfile 4 spec. So really the only claims that can be made are we comply with all the specifications that make up MicroProfile 4.0, which is a play on words, but very specific and accurate.
+1 on that one. Are we voting on that one next week on the call, or do we want to decide that information via the forum? What's going to be the outcome? How do we analyze or decide what got?
Not all decisions have to be made by the working group.
Exactly. So can we do it?
Hold on, I wasn't finished. We discussed very early on that we were going to try to limit the things that require a formal working group decision and try to use the Eclipse development process primarily as often as possible where we can, right? We know we cannot, when we're releasing a specification, there has to be patent coverage on the technology released. But we can, outside that, just make decisions as a community, which we should favor.
So then, John, delete this item from the agenda of the specification. We shouldn't have it as a privilege decision. It should be put back into the community. Because, we can,
well, one of the ways that we can handle that is that we could just simply dedicate the first half to work group decisions and then just say from here on, the official working group meeting is now concluded. This is now a community meeting and continue forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
We're at the top of the hour. So I do like that idea as well. I'll make sure that I do that. In fact, let me just do, I think I can just do that here.
Can you add it as like a subtitle when it says, done now?
Yeah. I'm gonna reformat these minutes. I don't like the way I'm doing it here. I plan on rejiggering it a little bit, and I'm sure I'll get lots of comments. The good, the bad, and the ugly.
If you want to guys, let me know. I love that. Grouping.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and conclude this meeting. Hold on. Oh, darn it. Well, we're gonna conclude it, but I want to keep Edwin on and potentially Kevin as well. I want to talk about Edwin did a pull request for modifying all our stuff for MicroProfile 4.0. I'll keep the recording on. If people want to stay on the call, they can stay on. But I did just want to reach out here to Edwin while he's on and just briefly discuss his pull request. Okay, so this pull request. See for everyone that's still on that wants to leave.
You can stop the recording, by the way, if the meeting's over.
No, I was going to keep it on just so people can understand what we're talking about here, because it's related. We just couldn't fit it in the agenda, but I think it's really important that we squeeze it in with the people that are most that are directly involved with the release. So, okay. So same bat time, same bat channel next week for everyone else for steering committee meeting. Okay. So somewhere I have it. Pull request. I thought I did it. Oh, here it is. Edwin's PR. All right. So Edwin, you had gone through and modified all the files to basically reflect MicroProfile 4.0. And if I have to categorize these, it's to change Eclipse MicroProfile to just MicroProfile. It was to update the versions of the specs, right, to the next version for an RC. And I think that was mostly it. Were there any other changes that you had made?
I think this was the one with the year change for the copyright. I was like, maybe it's necessary to keep these up to date, so I changed it as well. More cleanup. But it kind of summarizes it. I just looked for all the specs and the versions and updated these to the latest I could find.
John?
Yeah.
Yeah, go back up a little bit. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Edwin.
Oh, no problem.
Go up to where it had the list of the specs that were being brought in.
Sorry, I'm looking.
Nope. It's where, you know, we bring in all the other specs, and I just wanted to highlight what we were doing for RC1. Here we go. Keep going down into the pink area.
Here they are.
Okay. So what's being done here is that we still are not referencing the final version of the specs yet. We'd still be looking, don't highlight all that. It's hard to see the red versus green. There, thank you. So just wanted to highlight that this RC1 is basically, let's just get us up to date with our current content, but we don't have the, you know, quote final versions of all the component specs yet. So that would be like an RC2 type effort. That's what we were looking at when we were looking at this PR and where we were at with the release.
So I'm hoping we can finalize this by Friday. Just using whatever existing specs are out there, right? Spec versions that are final, or sorry, under, you know, the current RC status, as Kevin mentioned and Edwin is already stuck in. So I'm hoping that maybe we can do a build. And is Emerson still on? So Emerson, myself, Kevin, if you want to join, Edwin, now that he has the power of the committer, you could do all these commits, right? And you and I can walk through it and give you a little bit of experience with doing the hands-on. I don't know if you have availability on Friday for that.
I do. Probably have. Oh.
Okay. So I think I heard Emerson and Edwin. So we'll, I'll see if I can schedule a time. If you guys, is any particular time good? Is it like is this time slot good? I don't even know if it's good for me. Is this time slot good? The one that, you know, that we normally have our live hangout?
Just checking.
Friday?
Yeah, for me it is. Yeah.
Friday, for me as well.
So,
okay.
I stayed in this call just because I wanted to point out, Edwin, you agreed to volunteer to adjust the naming in these parts. And there is a ticket that I created based on that conversation. I have added it to the chat because it is about the MicroProfile wiki. Now that you have access, would you like to own dropping or adjusting the wording of MicroProfile? The name needs to be adjusted in the wiki as MicroProfile. So we need to remove, like you have done in this document, Eclipse. And I have added it in the link so that when anyone gets nominations for the working group, the committer, and all the pages, and the wiki is one main page, only committers have access. And I wonder if you would like to own that. If so, please add yourself to the ticket that I added. And that's a question for you.
Just a second. You say I have.
Yeah, click MicroProfile. I think John is sharing. So if you click MicroProfile, it brings you to the wiki and all the, you know, all the data that we are using under the Eclipse Foundation infra. John, can you click on MicroProfile and the link here? Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, only committers have access, and we need to adjust the page.
You know what we forgot to mention, Kevin?
Yep.
We need a release
now
plan.
That I see it.
We need a release plan. No specs have a release plan defined. And Scott called it out. I was like, whoops.
Looks like Metrics did.
Yeah, Metrics did. All right.
Woohoo!
So anyway, this is a question, and all of us can help. But clearly, you're newly owning the access. Will you like to navigate it? You can say no, maybe okay. What is it?
I'm not sure this is for this session, but are you sure I have all this access? But I'm not sure.
You should.
Yeah, you should, because
you should.
Yeah.
You should.
Yes, it takes
We'll walk
7
you
days.
through it.
We'll exercise it. If it doesn't work, then we'll fix it.
Yeah,
sure.
it takes 7 days to get the access after you have signed. I imagine you signed the agreement. It takes 7 days.
Yeah, we're not doing this till Friday anyway. And first we'll work on that. And then if we have to go through and modify, headers and documentation in various places, we can do that.
And Edwin, it's not Eclipse Jakarta EE, it's Jakarta EE. I have no idea who is adding and inserting Eclipse into I need to send something to Pat Silla about the agreements for Jakarta EE. I'm going to do that today to make sure that the contracts are with the trademark. Jakarta EE working group, not Eclipse Jakarta EE. I will take care of that today. But if you can try this, that would be amazing. Like that, Friday is amazing for doing multiple things with reference to the name of the project itself.
In fact,
go for it. I will do it, but since I'm not sure I have the access rights, I will do it as soon as I'm possible.
Yeah, all you do, by the way, is once you log into the Eclipse Foundation, you just go under Edit and you just start editing. Yeah. So.
And Edwin, I could have done it myself, but guess what? There is a ticket. We can do it in the ticket. We can talk about it here, and you can own it. It's so easy. Don't change it, John.
I'm not changing it yet. I'm highlighting.
Don't change it. Don't change it at all.
Quick comment on I noticed in the PR, but the conversation went really fast. At the top of the PR, I noticed there was a couple of MicroProfile references with the capital M but lowercase p. Oh. So could you do one of these on your PR?
Pet peeve.
Yeah, could you just do a fine replace for capital M but lowercase p and make sure that it's updated to capital M capital P?
That's the Edwin, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just say yes.
Edwin, welcome to MicroProfile status.
Now you know what you're really signed up for.
Exactly. We can see it.
I didn't sign up for anything yet, so. But,
I can still renounce my committership.
The funny thing is, I was more surprised that I didn't already check that. As OCD as I am, so.
Yeah, that's all of us. I mean, it's been there for a long time, so.
Yeah, they were already there. You didn't add them. I just happened to notice them because those lines were updated.
Yeah.
So Edwin, this is just fun, and it's like we could do it, but no. Why would we do it when we can onboard you onto navigating every system that we use on the infra and see what is missing? What do we need to fix? That is how we make things better, and you can help us because you are the one to do it.
So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this meeting on Friday to the MicroProfile calendar. And so we use all the same information, right? Login and everything. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to record it. So if you need to go back and refresh your memory on it, and because I do that occasionally as well, right? Because we don't do these very often, and it's going to atrophy until you've got enough of these under your belt. And then, Emerson as well, right? He's going to need to come back and refresh himself each time we do a release until it becomes more second nature. So I'm going to record it and I'll post it up on the YouTube group.
Okay, thank you so much for indulging me onto throwing another task. It was related, so I figured I need to stay and tell you this. I need to drop everyone, but love it. Hey, Edwin. Welcome. We didn't give you a moment to say how happy or how excited you are. Let's do that next Tuesday. Oh no, next Tuesday is like, send something to the forum. Can you send something to the forum and say, hey, whatever, to the 1,000 plus 200 and say, I'm so happy I made it, or like, it took me this long.
You could say it right now if you gave him a little bit of airtime.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I have had such a busy week. I haven't even gotten to reading the stuff, you know. So
I hear you.
Everything will be all right. It'll just give me a few more days to breathe again.
A vlog.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about doing this is it's really busy around release time, and then in between releases it's not nearly as bad. So and this is doubly busy because of the working group formation and all of that, right? So it's not going to be this hectic all the time. It's just you joined right at the perfect time from my perspective, and maybe not perfect from your perspective because it's becoming hard and fast.
Right at the right time, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I love it, Edwin. Thank you for everything, for being super kind and
absolutely
honest.
Thank you for being on all these calls over such a long period of time and just having such a enthusiasm for this community and being part of it. I think it's really, really awesome.
Your words and your actions match. It's for some people, it's hard to match the equilibrium and balance between the two. You have done beautifully since the day one to now, private and public. In both projects, actually, because you are also in the Jakarta project, that I can see you in. That is something that I respect, that inspire me, because it matches. Your credibility is protected by your own actions. And that is something beautiful that every ecosystem that you choose to protect.
Right. Sorry, the call's still recording. We're still going.
I know.
But next stop is Emerson, right? So we got Edwin all up, and next stop is Emerson. And
you have to do the work.
See, Emerson's probably saying, man, I don't know now. I don't know. All right.
Talk to Edwin. And Kevin wanted to say something. Kevin, what do you want to say before we go?
I don't think I had anything else.
Oh, it popped up. You might have unmuted accidentally or something. So you're trying to say something.
Yeah.
All right. Let's drop off. See some of the folks here, if not most, on the Friday call, which I will add to the MicroProfile calendar. Okay.
Have fun on that one.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.